Wait, ya, listo. Hello, my name is Jose Francisco Correal, and my group is going to expound on residual or waste heat recovery boilers. My group is conformed by Juan Francisco Airas, Laura Maria Pardo Moto, and my Jose Francisco Correal Rueda. Next, please. First of all, let's start by definition what a boiler is. It's a stationary machine that generates steam, which takes advantage of heat given off when burning a fuel to make water evaporate inside it. Basically, it's a reactor that converts water into steam, taking advantage of heat given off in the chemical reaction between a fuel and oxidizer. Now, let's talk about how it works. In the lower part of the heat of the boiler, where the fuel is burned to combustion to occur, a fuel air supply and heat are needed. Once the full burn is given of hot gases that carry a lot of thermal energy, with them remaining gases of combustion are directed upwards behind the walls of the boiler formed by tubes through which water circulates that generates some steam. It is converted by refractory material to avoid heat leakage out to the outside. The hot gases transfer their heat first to the superheat tubes, then to the bank of steam generator tubes, and finally, in residual form, the economization tubes before going out to the atmosphere. The feed water circulates through the economizer where it is heated before enter to the steam dome of to the steam dome. The water goes down the down covers cold side toward the lower dome. Then water rises through the risers, hot tubes, to the steam dome. In the riser, steam bubbles begin to form that separate from the water in the steam dome and redirected towards centrifugal separator that drain the steam retained in the water. The saturated steam in connected with water leaves the steam domes towards the superheat where it increments the temperature about its saturation temperature and leaves the boiler toward the process and or used in turbine which rotate and produce electricity. This factor depend on which industry you use. Next, please. Now I will speak about recovery boilers and the use description of operations. Recovery boilers are a special type of boiler with water tube that meet the following characteristic. They are stationary with internal ignition furnace, two drums located transversally with a simple gas passage and natural water circulation. The saturated steam is in contact with water, lift the steam dome towards the superheat, where it increments the temperature about its saturation and lift the boiler toward the process and or use the turbine which rotate and produce electricity. Recovery boilers have this characteristic. They are stationary with international ignis furnace, two drums located transversely with simple gas passages and natural water circulation. It proposed to generate steam and recover chemical present in the fuel element. These boilers are approximate 40 to 50 meter height, and the bottom is the heart of the boiler, where a bed of molten or inert particle is formed, which follow through the gutter towards and desolating tanks to the decline that the boiler floors. The combustion gas are released from the head of the boiler, which are directed through the walls of the furnace toward up the upper part where they are this group of tubes that get the passage of the gases marked and horizontal part transferred heat first to the tube of the superheat and then to the steam generation. For the generation of steam, there are two domers or drums that communicate with each another by vertical tubes that make up the steam generation bank. Finally, the combustion gas passes through the economizer before going out into the atmosphere, where the boiler feed water circulated before entering to the steam dome. The increments in feed water temperature, representing an economy of heat necessary to produce steam. To protect the tube of the high temperature superheated from the combustion gas, a group of tubes called screen tubes and nose tubes have been arranged where water circulates from the lower dome to the upper dome, generated some steam. A, heat circulation. The heat transfer in the boiler is carried out by hot gases that result from the combustion. That heat passing to the water then circulate inside the steam generation tubes. The combination gas passing the heat to guide the circulate inside the steam generator tubes gases as a hot fluid transfer heat or to water both by convection and by conduction. The gas field pass through the tube of the superheat transferred their heat and then go to the steam generator tubes with relative lower temperature. The boiler is made of cold side and a hot side, guaranteed the natural circulation of water and producing the boiling the water, which this release of steam bubbles that are finally separated by from the water in the steam dome. The gases the gases at the outlet have low temperatures, but they have a residual thermal energy necessary to preheat the feed water that passes through the economization before entering the steam dome. It's worth mentioning that water flow upstream. Next, please.
Okay, future characteristics parameter of stream generation. The heat recovery boiler in a combined cycle is the element in charge of harness the energy of the gas turbine exhaust gas be transformed into stream. The most important parameters that define the characteristics of stream generation are the following. Effective pressure. In practice, they are usually classified into low pressure, medium pressure, high pressure. And capacity, it is usually measured by the flow of a stream produced at a given pressure and temperature for a given of the boiler feed water. It is sometimes indicated by the used thermal power of the fuel. And heating surface, it is the surface through which the heat transfer process takes place. It can be divided into a direct transmitting surface in it the transformation of heat by radiation is dominant. An indirect transformation surface conversion heat transmission is dominant here. Next, please. A part of a heat recovery system. And this geyser feed water, boiler, feed pumps, economizer, evaporators, superheaters, and reheaters. And this geyser is responsible for elimination the gases dissolved in the feed water, mainly and other gases that could cause corrosion. Feed waters are deposited where the water that feeds our system accumulation. These water must be very pure to avoid impurities that could obstruct the conduits. And boiler is the place where the water evaporation and the stream superheat are fed. Feed ponds are responsible for setting the water from the feed water tank to its corresponding boiler. And in the other are the stranger in chain the preheating the feed water with the resultant of the exhaust gas, taking about the energy temperature, increasing the performance of installation. Evaporator are strangers that take advantage of the heat of the intermediate exhaust gas to evaporate the water at the pressure of the corresponding circuit. And superhairs and hairs are the strangers that are located in the part closest to the entrance of the gas. From the combustion in the gas turbine, the stream lamps come out is ready to be sent to a steam turbine. This stream is the most be as pure as possible, and it's the most free of drops of water that will deteriorate our turbine. Next, please. Head recovery boilers win at wall out post combustion. The boiler with was post combustion is the most common type of the boiler used in combined cycles. Essentially, it's the heat exchanger in which the heat of the gas is transformed to water stream circuit by convection. And boiler with afterburner, auto recovery boiler with burner and additional air supply can be bought. Construction modifications are normally limited to be installation of burner in the gas duct at boiler inlet. This allows excess oxygen in the turbine exhaust gas to be used without exceeding admitted temperature of the international protect plate of insulation. Um, Without modifying the distribution of surface of the boiler range. Without of the burner, these boilers usually have water sprayed the surface to regulate the stream temperature. Next, please. And another is horizontal and vertical heated recorded boilers. And horizontal boiler is one in which the gas at the outlet of turbine follow a horizontal path through the different mode for superheating, reheating, vaporizing, and heating the water until is the conduction to evacuation scenario. The download needs a support structure, being overall a more compact and cheaper boiler since it requires little metallic support structure when the elements are hung from the ceiling. The insula is usually internal to avoid using alloy materials and special joints in the housing. The insulation material should be covered in by a sheet to protect it from the impact of water or string in the event to top break. And the vertical boiler. This type of boiler is similar in the configuration to conventional boiler. They consist of a structure on which the boiler rests and from which the supports of the horizontal type boiler hands. In this boiler, the tube expands better are now subject to so high thermal strain and are more accession to expansional and maintenance. Sometimes vertical boilers have forced circulation, other assistant circulation in the startups, and the tendency is to desync the with natural circulation, which implies raising the position of the boilers to achieve the difference in basing between two water columns of the downcomers. Next, please. And um, one step boiler or OTSG. In this type of boiler, the water pays only once per boiler, giving you the certain temperature of pressure. They are usually used for industrial process. They seem to have good future due to a operation and maintenance prepared that are simple that previous to pass. Two types. Next.
Hello, I go to explain the classification of the residual of waste heat recovered boilers. Uh, he, physi- well, to- he physical principles of the technology of heat recovery contain it the product of the combustion of boilers are described in detailed manner of the specific manuals of the subject into specific principal forms. The first is the reduction of the losses in the chimney and recovery of the energy over latent heat. And the second is the thermal energy recovery from the condensing lead heat. These two means is go to the same principle. He increase inefficiency of the boiler economized group occurs due to economizer factors. Chimney economizer commonly for heating water on the simple types. It is uses the thermal energy of the explained gas in the process of the heating towards the battery to the heat bolters, feeds water and reduce the amount needs to the water, which look here. The second, the recovery of the condensate. When the vapor condense and the very moment when it changes fast, the condensate has the same temperature as the vapor because only the latent heat has been lost and all the sensitive heat remains. This condition is known as saturated water. Not wasting, but instead recovering and resume at much sensitive heat as possible is one the main reason why, why condense is recovered when steam condense. And the very moment it changes fast, the condense has the same temperature as the vapor because only the latent heat has been lost and the sensitive heat remains. The condition is known as saturated water, not wasting, but the contrary recovery and reason and much sensitive heat as possible is one of the remain reasons.
In application, um, I have two cooperation plans. Cogeneration means simulating production of two or more types of energy, and normally to generate their energies are electric and heat, although it can also be mechanical energy and heat are cold. The heat utilization system it can be exhaust gas air recovery boilers, drying or air exchanger of even absorption units that produce coal from this low range heat. And combined cycles. In combined cycles, there is the use of residual heat generation, B1 circle and transformator be the recurring boiler in order to feed another circle. Next, please.
And finally, I am going to talk about the regulation of these boilers. We decide to divide the stand into two parts. The first series contain standards for the technical part and the other for the environmental part. For the first part, the standard considers the requirements of assembly, the maintenance, the operation of control, and also safely device automatically operated boilers regards of fuel consumption. It also talks about the norm NTC 3649. It's also talk about the minimum requirement of installation, announcements element, componented material, and installations. It talks about cleaning, maintenance, and performance sets where the manufacturer's instruction must be followed. The boilers must be subject to a system of test and preventive maintenance. In addition to the results and observation must be in a logbook. Maintenance will not always be carried out in the same way. One will be daily, another weekly, monthly, semi-annual, or annual. This will carried out when the liquid or gases fuel is burned. It's talk about the review of protection of electrical part and review of the thermical protections. The standard indicated that manufacturer must have a file for each of the boilers, which include the control and safety device installed, the name of the manufacturer, the name of the model of each control and safety device, and on the performance test. Next, please. And the second part is about the safety and environmental conditions. Any boiler by fuels must stay complete with resolution 909 of 2008 of the Ministry of Environment, which established the norms and standards of admissible emission of pollutant into the atmosphere from Pfizer to SARS or the one modified or replaced. And in the Article 10 evaluation of risk level, this take the engineer in charge were evaluate uh, the level of risks where one is low level and 100 the highest, where 100 is treated to the workers and this industry, this boiler has been cancelled. Next, please. And finally, boilers that burns coal or agro-industrial waste must complete with the maximal permissible emission level of particulate material in accordance with current Colombian environment regulations. And this is all. Thanks for listening to us this exposition, and have a good day.